The World Economic Forum wraps up with a focus on the Ukraine war and GCC Airlines to operate 180 daily shuttles to Qatar during the World Cup. You're watching the Daily Brief with Forbes. I'm Ramia Farrage. The World Economic Forum closed today after days of deliberation between political, business and financial leaders in Davos. During the four-day meeting, Ukraine topped the agenda. Other discussions focused on the post-pandemic recovery, tackling climate change, the future of work, accelerating stakeholder capitalism, and harnessing new technologies. Russia is advancing a new law allowing it to take control of the local businesses of Western companies that decide to leave the country. The law, which could be in place within weeks, will give Russia sweeping powers to intervene where there's a threat to local jobs or industry. It makes it more difficult for Western companies to exit quickly, unless they're prepared to take a big financial hit. It comes as the Russian economy plunges into recession amid double-digit inflation. Russia's oil production could reportedly fall by anywhere between 5% and 8% to 480 to 500 million tons in 2022. Russian officials say there was 1 month with a decline of more than 1 million barrels per day, but current data shows it's now below that amount. Russia says it will redirect its crude shipments to Asia and other regions if the EU refuses its supply. Closer to home, Qatar Airways says fellow GCC Airlines will operate more than 180 daily shuttle flights to Qatar during this year's Soccer World Cup, allowing fans to fly in from nearby cities and ease pressure on Doha. Qatar hopes the tournament will attract roughly 1.2 million visitors, or almost half of the country's population. Games will be at 8 stadiums around Doha. The BSV Global Blockchain Convention wrapped up today after gathering top blockchain, digital asset and tech experts from around the world for 3 days of dynamic and insightful discussions. Held for the first time ever in the UAE, the convention addressed the BSV blockchain and its technical capabilities to serve as a global distributed data ledger in a secure, scalable and efficient manner for consumers, enterprises and governments. Over the past 2 years, the BSV blockchain has been building relationships with regional governments to advance education and adoption of its blockchain. Europe's securities regulator says soaring inflation may drive investors into risky crypto assets as it continues to call for a formal legal framework to govern the industry. European Securities and Markets Authority officials say they're waiting impatiently for the EU's blueprint for regulation of the area to be finalized as a law. They say with inflation rising, investors will look to find investments to compensate and bring greater returns, and this may lead to greater risk-taking. Britain's competition regulator has launched its second probe into the ad practices of Google, saying it could be distorting competition and may have illegally favored its own services. Officials say Google may be using its position in ad tech to favor its own services to the detriment of its rivals, of its customers, and ultimately of consumers. Google says it will continue to work with the CMA to answer its questions and share the details on how the company's systems work. Apple plans to keep iPhone production roughly flat for 2022 at about 220 million units as China's COVID curbs, global supply chain issues, and cooling demand continue to hurt smartphone makers. Shanghai has been largely paralyzed by a citywide lockdown now in its 7th week. The iPhone maker's supplier, Foxconn, has been able to keep its workers on site in a closed-loop system to limit the impact on production, but lockdowns have pushed many to sound demand-related warnings. I'm Ramia Farrage. This is the Daily Brief. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.